there's nothing that's going to challenge him this year.
I think he's definitely the one to beat.
The vibes in Ireland, he is a rocket.
16th off the Oaks, get on each way now.
Regain all his momentum and absolutely flew home.
I have an outsider at 100 to 1 odd.
Hello and welcome to the Next Gen Racing YouTube channel for our Antepost Flats preview, where we're going to be previewing the 4 classics. We're not going to be previewing the Ledger today, and we're going to be previewing the Guineas and the Derby and Oaks. And we're also going to give other Antepost Flat selections for the rest of the season. We're joined by a great guest today from the finishing line. We've had Andrew Halligan, but we've got Dave O'Keefe. Dave, I might need a bit of help. I've had the Easter weekend just gone. Plenty of chocolate consumed. I know that you're a gym owner. Have you got any tips for myself?
I just enjoy it. If you're listening to trainers telling you not to live your life, then they're the wrong trainers. Enjoy it and get back after it by the end of the week.
That's it. I'm gonna have to bring the calories down a bit and get out for those weekly runs once again. But yeah, as always, joined by Jack. Jack, how's your week been?
Yeah, brilliant. Enjoyed it. I mean, it was a bit of a minefield this weekend, wasn't it, with the 150 to 1 Irish national winner? But we're back on the flat. There's racing from Bath and Pontefract, so we're back in it, boys. Come on, let's go.
Right, and we're going to kick things off with the 2000 Guineas, a 3-year-old race for the Colts over a mile. Your betting looks like this: best price Battleground 9 to 2, St Mark's Basilica 8 to 1, Thunder Moon is also 8, Wembley 9s, One Ruler 11s, High Definition 16s, and 20 to 1. And bigger the rest. Now, there's been a huge gamble on all of the Aidan O'Brien horses over the last few weeks after he's been sort of hitting. I think he's at the moment, he's at 50%, but he hit as high as 64% over the last 14 days, which is absolutely crazy. And a lot of horses have been backed, including one that we'll talk about in the 1000 Guineas in a minute. And we also had Price-Wise come out in the paper with his anti-post selections, which has really slashed some of the prices, especially on One Ruler for the Godolphin team. But Dave, I'll start with you. That the favourite here, Battleground, second at the Breeders' Cup, but you know he's done plenty right this last season with winning the Cheshire and the Vintage Stakes at Goodwood. I mean, is he going to be the one to beat, or do you think there's plenty of value in this race to be had?
I think there's plenty of value in the race to be had, and I have 2 at bigger prices. I like Battleground. I liked his maiden last year, and I followed him on from there. The thing that worries me about him is he's a warfront, and they just tend not to go on as 3-year-olds. His mammy or his dam was a great horse in 2, 3, and 4. Won the Arc as a 4-year-old. But warfronts, they can have such good 2-year-old seasons, and then they just don't bring it on and progress on to 3-year-olds. So I'd be looking elsewhere from his point of view. His price is a bit short if you take that into account. For me, the 2 I'd be looking at is firstly the Richard Hannon trained Chindit. I really liked him last year. I think he travels really well in his races, and I'd forgive his run in soft ground at the back end of last year. Let's see him back on good ground, good to firm ground, and see how he goes. And then Jim Bulger. When Jim Bulger has a good horse, he generally aims it at the proper races. And his horse Max Swiney, although tends to be a bit in and out, again did win a Grade 1 at the end of the season last season. He's a bit of an outsider, but I know a lot of people in Ireland really fancied him that day. By a good sire, new approach. So I think he'd have a right good chance, and he's already been kind of slashed in price as well. So those 2 for me: Chindit from Richard Hannon stable and Max Swiney from the Jim Bulger stable.
Yeah, Jack, as Dave mentioned there, Max Swiney's a really interesting one. I mean, Verting Futurity winners, the last 3 winners are Kamiko, Magna Grecia and Saxon Warrior, all gone on to win the Guineas now. It's been a good race in the last 3 years. The ones that I'm looking at the moment would be Wembley and Thunder Moon. Now, I know that in the Dewhurst that was won by St Mark's Basilica. Now, what happened in that race is St Mark's Basilica actually lent right throughout the race and kind of got into the run of Thunder Moon and Wembley. Now, Wembley looked like he was going directly through, and I think he might be one that actually stays further over time. But I think I'd have to be siding with Wembley. Jack, I know that you're a big fan of the Joseph O'Brien horse, though.
Yeah, I think you both hit the nail on the head so far. I mean, Dave's right. I wouldn't be going into Battleground at 9 to 2. He's out of Warfront, and as he said, as a 3-year-old, you don't really know how they're going to come on. He was very good as a 2-year-old. Don't get me wrong, but I think of course, it's very ground dependent. On the quicker ground, I'd definitely side with Thunder Moon. I think his turn of foot was electric. I mean, in the national stakes, he was hampered about 2 furlongs out, had to switch left, regain all his momentum, and absolutely flew home. And to be fair, in the Dewhurst, it wasn't that bad a run on soft ground. Joseph O'Brien said that he'll favour quicker ground. And I think towards the back end of the year, if they keep him over a mile, I think he'll definitely be one for perhaps the Sussex Stakes or whatnot. And I think, given better ground, I'd definitely go with Thunder Moon. On softer ground, there's one, Wembley, of course, like you said. My only concern with Wembley is he could be a bit like a Wichita or a Circus Maximus in the way that he always runs his race and he's always going to be hitting the line strong, but he's just seems quite hard to win with. And that would concern me, especially now he's 8-9 to 1. But there's one of Ado McGuinness's, A Case of You, whose form has been working out really well. Now, I'm a bit concerned he'll probably stay as a sprinter because when he was seen at Dundalk, he raced over 6. But I mean, on his second run, he comfortably beat Earls Rock over 7 on soft. Now, Earls Rock's now rated 115 and has won twice over in the USA on at Santa Anita. And then, of course, he made all to beat Lipizzaner, who won the listed Doncaster Stakes and finished 4th, was in the juvenile turf sprint in the Breeders' Cup. Now, he's got a really nice turn of foot, and he showed that when he was back out at Dundalk. He's currently 50 to 1, or 66 to 1 actually, best price. But it'd be an intriguing candidate if they do see him over a mile. I'm not sure if they'll keep him over 6 furlongs, but here's one I'll keep an eye on, especially if the ground's got a good bit of give in it.
Yeah, would either of you give a stakes for the two that Pricewise has put up? It's always interesting to read Pricewise Antepost previews, but he put up One Rule, who finished second to McSweeney in the Futurity Stakes, and he also put up McGallen, who won the Buridan Stakes at Newcastle on Good Friday. I wouldn't have said that was that impressive in listed company, but what do we make of One Ruler coming into this? Because I think he's had the run in Maidan since, finishing behind Naval Crown. Would anyone give him a squeak over this distance?
He has a squeak, but to me, the Godolphin horses just haven't done it in the Guineas in a long time. I don't know whether that's to do with training or breeding. It's hard to know. Like, Dubowi's a great sire and all, but they seem to do better kind of later in the season. They do well in Maidan, kind of fall away a little bit and then start coming back around Royal Ascot time. So I'd always be looking away from the Godolphin horses.
He might be one in the future for the St James's Palace Stakes. You never know. He might be one that comes on and runs well at a price in that. But that's our Antepost preview of the 2,000 Guineas. Right, we move on to the fillies now in the 1,000 Guineas. Now, we've got a heavily well-backed favourite here. Now, this is the best price is Santa Barbara at 5 to 2, which is absolutely outrageous for the Aidan O'Brien team. Pretty Gorgeous is 7 to 1. Indigo Girl, 12s. Alcohol-free 14s. Joan of Arc and Shale, both 16s. And 20 to 1 bar those. Now, Jack, one run in a maiden at the Curragh, won fairly comfortably, and Aidan O'Brien's been going on and on about this horse. 5 to 2, too short for you to be taken, or do you think that this horse is definitely just the one to beat now?
I've never been one to hang on a trainer's every word, especially Aidan O'Brien's. I mean, the amount of time we see his 3rd string or 4th string go in after he's been beating up his 1st or 2nd string is just obscene. I mean, I understand the support, but I mean, considering like 7 of the last 12,000 Guineas winners have had at least a run, whereas not so much for the 2,000 Guineas, I think the race will obviously unfold in the coming weeks, and we'll get a better picture of where we're looking at. I mean, of course, she's very aesthetically pleasing with just the one run, which was quite comfortable after Aidan O'Brien's come out and said what he has about her. But at 5 to 2, I mean, I wouldn't be going anywhere near her, if I'm being honest. I think of them all, I'd probably forgive Isabella Giles for her run in the Fillies Mile, and she could be a touch overpriced at 25 to 1. She won 3 of 4 last year, including the Prestige Stakes at Goodwood and the Group 2 Rockfell Stakes. Now, she was quite keen in the Fillies Mile and just never really travelled. The ground was quite soft that day, and I think she could go a touch under the radar at 25 to 1. But yeah, I'll be staying away from Santa Barbara for sure.
Okay. Though I'm actually going to side with the Donnacha O'Brien trained horse in that Shale, who actually beat Pretty Gorgeous over 7 furlongs at the Curragh. That was then reversed at Newmarket in the Fillies Mile. That was soft that day. I think the key to this horse is good ground. And Jack, we know we love a Donnacha O'Brien horse and potentially one like Fancy Blue to go on to Goodwood. We never know, but we can always dream. But I do think good ground is key to this horse. I know that this horse has won a heavy ground race. It was its maiden at Gowran Park, but I really don't think that was a major issue. I think that race was fairly weak, so it was easy enough for that horse to go in. But I'd give Shale a massive crack. And the other one would be Monsoon Moon for me, who's a half sister to Logician. Now, I'm surprised this horse doesn't actually have an entry into the Oaks as well. But this horse's race that won at Newmarket was actually a race the same stable won with a horse called Tagruda, who was 7 years ago won the Oaks and the King George. And that's in the Judgment colours. And I think at 33 to 1, that horse is far too big. Dave, are you going to be sticking with the Aidan O'Brien Hot Pot at the top of the market, or are you going to go something at maybe even double figure odds?
No, I understand the reason behind her being so short with what he said, but look, realistically, in the 1,000 guineas, if I'm backing an Aidan O'Brien horse, I'm kind of looking outside the box. They progress so much from 2 to 3, you really don't know, and it's even hard to tell after some of them have a prep run. That prep run can bring them on so much as well. Then you have ones that turn up just straight there. He said so much about her. I understand why she's so short, but to me, she on her breeding, she looks more like an Oaks filly. She's by Camelot. Like,
Will we say this about Love though last season? I mean, Love was so impressive in the Guineas, then went on to be even more impressive in the Oaks. Do you think we could see another race like that?
I don't know. It's very hard for fillies like that to pop up. I do like Shale, and I was going to bring up Love because Love had been beaten in the Fillies Mile and then turned all that form around with another winter on her back. So I understand Shale. I do think she wants good ground. She doesn't want soft or heavy ground. I'd be looking at an Aidan O'Brien outsider in Joan of Arc. Her breeding is all speed. It's all grade 1, group 1 milers. She ran really well the first day, won a maiden the last day. I think she'll progress on. You'll see her again probably in the 1,000 guineas trial in Ireland. I'd say I'd be looking at her. And then the Roger Charlton trained Love Is You. I don't know how much substance there is to the form, but she's got those pink and white colours of Normandy stud. They pick up grade 1, group 1 winners all the time, and she's by the right sire. She's by Kingman. He's one of my favourite sires at the moment. Produces horses with so much speed. Should have won the Guineas himself. I don't know how he didn't win it, to be honest. And she's my kind of outsider. She's about 20 to 1. I think she's a good chance.
There we go. A few decent shots in the 1,000 guineas. It looks like we're trying to take on the Aidan O'Brien Hot Pot, but just remember that horse could go in and could be very, very short for the Oaks, which we'll get into in a minute. Right, on to one of my favourite races of the season. It's the Epsom Derby over 1.5 miles. High definition, another Aidan O'Brien Hot Pot. It's easy to say this in these classics with Aidan O'Brien dominating the markets, but 4 to 1 is the best price about this horse. Wembley 16 to 1 for this. Max Swinney, Battleground, Van Gogh, St Mark's Basilica, all 20s. Uncle Bryn 25s, and bigger the rest. Jack, high definition. It's going to be another one that's going to be hard to beat, in my opinion. Looked really, really good in the 2-year-old campaign. Looks like this horse stays for days. And like I say, you're going to have something in the Guineas come out and be really impressed and look like a stayer to try and beat this one.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I think 4 to 1 is a short price, especially when you look at how they progress from 2 to 3. I mean, it's just ridiculous, isn't it? Like something can improve £10-20 over the winter, and after wintering well can come out and blow them all away. But yeah, I mean, of course, he's out of Galileo, isn't he? And he flew from the gods at the Curragh. And hopefully, I mean, I think AP O'Brien will be a bit silly if he goes for the 2,000 guineas instead of a trial. I think they'll go for a trial. His breeding suggests that the 1.5 miles shouldn't be too much of a problem. It'd probably be towards the max of what he'll stay, but it shouldn't be a problem at all. And I think even though he's 4 to 1, it is hard to look elsewhere at the moment this early in the year.
Yeah, it really is. The one in here that's fairly interesting is Uncle Bryn, one for the Gavin and Stacey fans. 2 wins on the all-weather, but this horse looks like he stays fairly easily. I mean, 1 over just under 1.25 miles. And it'll be interesting to see how this horse gets on the turf. I'd like to see how this horse goes there. And Max Swinney, Dave, is the one we mentioned for the Guineas, is sired by New Approach, who was a Guinea second, then went on to be a Derby winner. So would you say that Max Swinney could be better off in the Derby? Do you think he'd be better for the mile?
It's hard to know. That years ago, that race that Max Swinney won would usually be a Derby trial, and it's actually thrown up, like you said, the winner of the Guineas the last few years. So it's hard to know, but you would expect him to definitely get the trip anyway. So
Yeah, it'll be an interesting one. Would you be siding with the Aidan O'Brien high definition?
yeah, I would, to be honest. I tried to take on the short price favourite, but I think he's more of the traditional Derby horse. Over the last few years, I think going back to when Sea the Stars was around, the O'Brien stable seems to want to recreate that superstar that wins the Guineas and then the Derby. And Camelot came along, but the end of his career kind of fell apart. But high definition is kind of more the traditional Derby horse. I think you're right. You'll see him in a Derby trial like the Ballysacks, at Leopardstown, that kind of style, stepping up. And then I do think he has a really good favourites chance in the Derby. I have an outsider at 100 to 1 odd, which
we love them. We love them.
Fairly big price. He won a maiden at Doncaster last week. Just get the horse up here, and it's Too Friendly, George Scott's horse in the Gredley colours. If you go back through his form, there's substance to it as well. He's in against a Godolphin horse that also won last week, the day after, at Doncaster, and he beat I think a Mark Johnston horse as well. But the breeding of the horses all screams 1 mile 4 stairs. I think he's a good chance. He's by Camelot. I wouldn't have him as 100 to 1 shot anyway. I'd say you'll see him in a Derby trial, and then you'll know more from there on.
Yeah, I think the yard think a hell of a lot of the horse as well. So it'd be interesting to see how that goes. But 100 to 1. Oh, we've always wanted to land 100 to 1 on this channel. Jack was trying to get himself close, but if anyone can do it, it'll be so great. The one that I'd actually give her a decent mention to, if the ground, it's unlikely to do so, but if the ground were to come up soft or even heavy at that time of the year, then bang off for the Aidan O'Brien team. Horse that won in Saint-Cloud, Group 1, really impressively powered through the line that day. And I just think this horse has been improving through his 2-year-old campaign. I think going into a 3-year-old campaign could be even better. So if you were to get soft ground for the Derby, that'd be the one to side with each way. Right, on to the Oaks now, and Santa Barbara is the 5 to 1 favourite for this. We know that if she goes and wins the Guineas, she's going to be a hell of a short price, maybe 2 to 1, 7 to 4, you never know. Indigo Girl and Tiona, 16 to 1, Pretty Gorgeous and Queen's Speech, 20 to 1, Lucid Dreamer, Empress Josephine, Shale, Willow, Isabella Giles, they're all 25s, and 33 to 1, and bigger the rest. Now, Dave, like I said, God knows what price Santa Barbara will be come the Oaks if winning the Guineas. Do you know what? If she does win the Guineas, I'd be all over this horse for the Oaks. I just think it should be an absolute certainty, a bit like Love last year. Now, the one that is interesting is Indigo Girl, who stayed on very well in the closing stage of the Filly Mile at Newmarket. I think that this horse is bred to go further than a mile, and is out of a Group 2 winner as well. I think is a Group 2 winner herself. Now, Dave, John and Fady Gosden, they've got the season off to a fairly decent start, and they could be a yard that have plenty of winners this year. They've still got Stradivarius in training, which is fantastic to see, and I'll actually give him a mention in a minute. But do you think Indigo Girl's the one that they've got to watch out for, the Aidan O'Brien team here?
To be honest, yeah, she was the one I was going to pick for this. I like Santa Barbara, obviously, like I said, but we'll have to see what way the Guineas turns out for her. But Indigo Girl, if she runs in the Guineas, I wouldn't be surprised if she's placed and she's running on at the end. Her sister, I think, is a Group 1 mile 4 horse. I think she screams Oaks filly, and Gosden is super good with fillies over a trip. He's had so many Oaks winners, as many as probably Aidan O'Brien has. So she'd be the one for me. I take on Santa Barbara with Indigo Girl, and she's probably going to have Frankie Dettori on her, and I wouldn't be his biggest fan, but I think she's a really good filly.
There you go. Jack, Santa Barbara, would you be like me, though, if she does go and bolts up in the Guineas, she'd be almost a certainty to go in the Oaks, or would you think that she'd still be vulnerable?
Personally, I still think, of course, it depends what she does
Yeah,
in the Guineas to if she'd be vulnerable or not and what everything else does. But I'm going to make it a full house. I'm going to agree with Indigo Girl. Of course, she's a full sister to Journey. He won the Fillies and Mares on Champions Day. She's 16 to 1 at the minute, and yeah, she's bred to go a mile and a half. I think that would be perfect for her. She was staying on well in the Fillies mile. I think the soft ground, she was very green even on her second start, so she could come on a lot over the winter. And yeah, let's hope we have a full house there of Indigo Girl.
16 to 1 for the Oaks. We've all agreed. I think it's the first time a full panel have agreed. 16 to 1 for the Oaks. Get on each way now. It's an absolute cert according to us three, but I wouldn't be trusting us too much. But Indigo Girl in the Oaks from all three of us. Right, we now move on to our other Antepost fancies for the rest of the season. Now, Jack, we're meant to give winners on this channel, right? Yeah?
Yeah, that's what we do. That's what we do.
Right, well, I'm actually going to go all the way to Australia to begin with. And a horse that I'm very, very, very fond of, and that was Sir Dragonet, who was fourth on debut this season out in Rosehill, won very, very impressively in the Tancred Stakes this weekend just gone, and is 11 to 1 to go and win the Cox Plate back to back. Now, this horse here, I'm telling you now, is a new resurged horse out in Australia. 11 to 1. This horse is going to be campaigned for that race. Glenn Boss got off that horse and said that he's just a changed horse, and potentially the Cox Plate and on to Melbourne Cup. I think 11 to 1 is far, far too big for the Cox Plate. Now, my second one will be a short price, but it's Lord North in the Prince of Wales Stakes. I was very impressed by this horse out in Dubai. The turn of foot was so impressive, and every season this horse seems to look better and better. But I think he's going to go there with a major chance. And the one that potentially is just, I don't think there's anything that can challenge him this season. You might not be able to get a good price on this. You have to have a look. But Stradivarius, in my opinion, guys, for the stayers races this year, I just think that there's nothing that's going to challenge him this year. I wouldn't be looking at him just at the Gold Cup. If you could get like a Gold Cup, Goodwood Cup double somewhere, if someone could request that, and he's a decent price, sort of 8 to 1, 10 to 1, I'd be taking that. But Subjectivist is a horse that won well out in Maiden, and everyone seems to think this horse might be able to challenge him. But you look at Knife Road last season, set it up for Stradivarius from the front. I think it would be very similar with Subjectivist, would literally lay it up for Stradivarius. I think at the end of last season, the horse was just, I think he had enough. He had done what he wanted to. He came 12th of 13 in the long distance cup. And I just think that, that was the end of his season. He didn't want to run again way before that. So I'd be looking forward to him and think he's got a major chance. And the last one is Goshen in the Evil. No, I'm joking. I'm not going to give it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. Jack, I'll come to you first with your Antepost selections for the rest of the season.
So the first is going to be Thunder Moon for the Sussex Stakes. Now he's 12 to 1 currently. Obviously, I'm looking forward to see how he gets on the 2,000 guineas. But when it comes to the Sussex Stakes, hopefully, if we see anything like last year, he'll be getting the firm ground that he wants over the quick mile. I think he's got an electric turn of foot. It'll be interesting to see how he comes on from that. He's 12 to 1 at the moment, I think, with William Hill, with your odds or whatever you want to call it. Don't know if it's available elsewhere. The second is a larger price, and it is Wonderful Tonight for the Arc. Now, I do have a lot of personal love for this horse as well, because I went to see her at David Memrice's yard. But I think if there's any give in the ground, I can't really see her going off 12, 14 to 1. Of course, she'll need a lot of giving the ground. But if we see bottomless ground, then I think she has a serious chance. She went from strength to strength last year. She won the Prix de Royalier, or however you want to call it.
Good,
of course, yeah, we're all here for the pronunciations. And of course, the Fillies and Mares on Champions Day, and we know that the Arc is definitely the plan. And I think David probably regrets not sending her there last year, especially when Aidan pulled out all his runners. So I think she'll go off about 12, 14 to 1 on the day, should there be soft ground. She's 33 to 1 at the moment, and I think that could be worth a little bit in the hope that the ground does come. The last, of course, as everyone will probably know, is Supremacy for the Commonwealth Cup. Now, he's best price 6 to 1 now. He was 12, put him up last year at the end of the season. And I just love the way he makes it. He doesn't just stay, he kicks away. And I love it. I mean, we saw it in the Richmond Stakes at Goodwood, and I was actually watching from outside at the time. Loved it. And they turn a foot 2 furlongs out to kick 4 lengths clear of Yazaman, who hasn't really done much, it's fair to say. But that was really, really impressive. And then, of course, in the Middle Park, when he stayed on gamely to finish ahead of Lucky Vega. Now, of course, Adam Kirby and Clive Cox won this with a front runner last year in Golden Horde. And I think if he doesn't get a horrible draw on the wrong side, I think he's definitely the one to beat at around 6-1. I know he has the likes of Campanelli to contend with. I think Minzar's been hit with a setback, so he may not be seen at Royal Ascot, and if he does, it could be his reappearance. But I think he does look in great order here. They haven't been tempted to go for one of the classics. They've said they're going to keep him at 6 furlongs, and I think he could be a serious sprinter this year.
Yeah, I think Supremacy is a really good bet as well, Jack, to be honest. Dave, I hear you've got an absolute rocket to give us.
Jack already mentioned him. Aidan McGuinness's horse, a case of you. He apparently is a rocket. There's a guy in the WhatsApp group. He plucks one out every now and again, and he's been on about this for a good few months through the winter. He's more into the flat racing as well than he is the jump racing, so he'd be one I'd be listening to. But yeah, the vibes are he's very, very good. I know Jack mentioned him for the 2000 guineas, but I think they're going to keep him sprinting, so he's very good. I would, my few, I'm going to give you 4. I echo Jack's thoughts on Supremacy. I think he is a super horse. I haven't backed as well for the Commonwealth Cup. I think he's a sprinter. He's with the right connections. Clive Cox, Adam Kirby, they know what to do. They've had so many good sprinters over the years, like Lethal Force, Golden Horde, other ones. I think in that race as well, if the American horses come over, I think he'll be able to hold the pace if needed be, and he'll be also be able to pull back a little bit to kick on. They might go a little bit too hard out in front. I think he's a worthy favourite for that race. I'm going to take you on, Sam, in the Prince of Wales's with Love and hope she turns up there. I think she will batter everything this year that she comes up against, as long as the ground is okay for her. And I'm sure they won't run her on soft ground anyway. So if she's running, you know that she's there to win. I text yourself, Sam, about a horse that kind of caught my eye at the start of the season in Ireland last year and then fell away as a 3-year-old sprinter and then came back to form again towards the end of the season. Soft, kind of heavy ground. Lost Town Baba. She's a kind of distinctive grey colour. She will win some good races in Ireland. I could see her being aimed probably towards the end of the year at that Flying 5 race in Ireland. That's a great Group 1 now. And some are kind of top handicaps. But I think she's a very good horse. She ran the other day at Cork and came 3rd, which is probably a step up on what she was showing kind of the start of last season. So keep an eye on her. And then I think the arc winner is going to be Tarnawa. Trainer's already said herself and his other filly a song for someone, I think her name is. The whole season is geared towards September, October time. So if they come out and they run badly during the summer, don't worry about it. Her target for the whole year is winning the Arc. And I think she would have won it last year. I think as much as I think Love is a superstar, I think Tarnawa would probably beat her. So
yeah. Tarnawa is absolutely lethal. Jack knows that I'm a big fan of this horse. I think I agree with you, Dave. I think this horse will probably be likely a campaign throughout the summer. And we'll see the best of her towards the end of the season. But that's all of our selections for the Antepost flat season. And Jack will have them all on the screen now, so you can have a look through all of those. But Dave, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks very much for inviting me on.
That's
I like talking flat racing, so it's good to be on.
We've been enjoying it for the last couple of weeks now, so it's been all right. But we'll be back tomorrow with our preview of Aintree. We'll be joined by Ben Hughes, and we'll also have George Cody on, who will be previewing the Masters with us as well, which is coming this weekend. Plenty of sporting action, so looking forward to that. But thanks for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.